Presidential election petition judgment. Take a listen. Well, hello there. Thank you so much for watching TV47. We want to welcome you to this one-on-one interview with lawyer Paul Mwangi. He is the Azimio legal advisor. Thank you so much, Counsel, for joining us on TV47.
Thank you, Mwangi.
Great. I'll begin by taking you way back to last year, actually just about short of a year now, to 5th September 2022, when the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya issued its verdict, it issued its judgment on the presidential election petition. First of all, your reaction to that judgment, and what did it make you feel?
Okay, first, of course, every time you go to court, you expect any result that you can get a result that is not favorable to you. But there are cases in which you feel that at least you have a winning point. And this is one case where we felt we had several winning points. And been judging from the way the case had gone and the way we felt the issues of scrutiny had been handled, we had felt quite confident that we had made a case for the nullification of that election. So, yes, it was a bit of a shock that that was not the outcome.
Okay. Did you feel perhaps that the highest court of the land, offered justice to your client?
No, we didn't. As lawyers, of course, we are usually slow to criticize courts for outcomes. But in one particular respect, because we had challenged the outcome on the basis that the entire commission had not been involved and that the commission had been split, with a majority of members of the commission refusing to stand with those results. The Supreme Court agreed with us that it is necessary for the entire commission to agree on the result, or at least the majority of them to support the result that was there. But having found that the commission must act as a corporate, must act in concert, they nevertheless upheld the result, which had only the backing of a minority of the commissioners. On that point alone, we felt that they had disregarded the justice of the case.
Okay. So let me take you now to, a time you made headlines again 3 months ago when you wrote to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, asking it to, investigate into the political situation in Kenya. First of all, what inspired that letter?
For a long time now, we have been dealing with a lot of police brutality and impunity. And it is almost systemic. And it seems to be as old as this country. I think the earliest case of abuse of rights by policemen was when Harry Thuku was arrested and people went to demonstrate outside Central Police Station. And they were gunned down. And since then, that has been the trend from the police. We had in 2009, when the United Nations Special Rapporteur for Extrajudicial Killings came to Kenya. That was Philip Alston. And he came in answer to questions that the police were engaged in extrajudicial killings. So this is one time we have felt that this should not be let to go. Previously, people have expected that some kind of action is going to be taken. After Philip Alston came to Kenya, there was an expectation that somebody would follow up on the accusations that more than 10,000 youths had been killed by the police. There was never any follow-up. This is one time that we are feeling, and concerned parties are feeling, that this must be followed to the end, and that we have to initiate action ourselves.
Yeah, because I did have a conversation, a sit-down with him last week, where, I asked him about that matter, and he indeed insisted and maintained that he had recused himself from the issue. But the recusal appears to have come in from February last year, when he was during the case of, against the late lawyer, Paul Kimani. That's when the recusal was made public. Do you think that perhaps there is a misunderstanding on this recusal from the prosecutor himself?
So I think the recusal then that was there was in respect of handling the Gishero case. Uh, Now he seems to have recast himself from handling any Kenyan matters. So we need that clarification. Had he recast himself from then, and if he had recast himself at that time, who has been handling our case? Who is the prosecutor who had been left to handle this matter? And is he the one who has chosen this prosecutor who is handling our matter anew, or did that start in February? We have several answers that we would want to have answered regarding of how our matter has been handled ever since we filed it.
Okay. And you say the ICC has not yet responded?
It has not responded, but as I said, we had thought that by now there would be an answer of whether an investigation is being conducted or not. Or maybe some response telling us whether they want us to supply other evidence or whether they have decided not to pursue it. At least we have felt that there should have been an answer one way or another.
And so what would be perhaps, in a nutshell, explaining to Kenyans the case that you want the ICC itself to investigate in this country, specifically for the alleged police brutality that you mentioned? Are there other issues that perhaps you want the ICC to intervene?
The main issue is that there is clearly a deliberate policy within the National Police Service to abuse people's rights and to the extent of exterminating people who seemed to be in conflict with government. So when people have come out to demonstrate, we have seen at least the last 2 times, according to the evidence that we think we have collected, that people have been specifically targeted and specifically killed. So we've had people who were shot from the back. And we want, in our view, if you're shooting a demonstrator from the back, it means then your intention is to exterminate them.
So you'll be suing the police or the Inspector General? Will you be able to divulge the details of whom you're suing against?
So I think it would be up to ICC if they decide that they are going to take on the matter. It is up to them to then decide if they will take it up, who they will take it up against. We can't determine who could be responsible for this.
Are you hopeful that the ICC will hear you out and take up the matter?
We can't tell. We hope they will. But it's not a matter that we intend to let go, whatever the answer is going to be. It's a matter we want to pursue further and further until it is addressed. Because it's not the last time that people are going to demonstrate against government. And we cannot have that the response to demonstrations against government is to have people being killed. Yeah.
Okay, talking about demonstrations, we've had quotas from government speaking to Article 37, the right to picket. And, this is among the issues that you're taking to the ICC. As a lawyer, what do you make of, such calls on amending that article on, provisions of how people can picket in this country?
The problem is not about the right itself. It's about the government response to demonstrations against itself. That they use police to disperse and prevent those demonstrations. So it's a political action. And the biggest problem is the use of the police in government defending itself politically. Because demonstrations are held not just against government, they are held, we have doctors demonstrating against the ministry every other day. We have had teachers demonstrate against TSE. So people do demonstrate against institutions that they feel, public institutions, that they feel they want to be listened to. It is only when you address the national executive that all of a sudden we start hearing that people want to destroy property. We start hearing people have had to be shot. So they think there is a question of why is it that demonstrations only turn violent or thugs only come out when it is the demonstration against the government. So it's the same people, but is it the government that is using the police to ensure that it doesn't have demonstrations against it, demonstrations that possibly make it unpopular?
Okay, because the government, the minister, the CS cabinet secretary for interior, and other quarters in government have argued that there is a lot of chaos and demonstrations, rather destruction of property during the demonstrations caused by, or rather during your, when Azimio is demonstrating. What are some of the, are these legitimate concerns that they raise, perhaps for them to then say that this needs to be quote unquote reviewed?
First, you cannot decide that because there's a problem that you're going to curtail a right. If you wanted to stop theft and muggings, you simply put curfews. There will never be another mugging. But we don't put curfews because people are being mugged. We provide security so that people continue to exercise their freedom of movement. So the question is not to come and curtail a right because there are people who possibly come out to take advantage of demonstrations. It's to find out how you're going to identify those people who do that and arrest them. But you cannot curtail the rights of other people with, in order to ensure that no crime is committed.
Does Azimio believe the demonstrations have been peaceful despite what we've seen?
From an Azimio side, we have had peaceful demonstrations. What happens is that they start getting unruly when the police come and start dispersing people with tear gas. That's when it turns unruly, and that's when it gives a chance for people who, in the chaos that ensues, is where you have all the elements that would want to take advantage of the situation, finally being able to do so.
So when you hear comments from the police saying, that they have cancelled the demonstrations by Azimio, as a lawyer, what makes, is there a misinterpretation of the Constitution that you pick from such comments?
These comments are as old as the police force. As I said, the first time the police shot people because they demonstrated against the government was in the colonial times. So it's a systemic thing, and that is what they have always done. Every time government is faced with political opposition, what it does is to start aiming at the right to assemble, at the right to demonstrate, at the right of expression. What they do is they go for the Mwangi. So we have a deeper problem that we need to address.
Let's now move to the issue on events that followed the election of last year. The recent one of the recent one is the signature collection. What do you intend to achieve with the 15 million signatures?
First, the signature drive is a political expression of where the government is with the people. And that is what also demonstrations do, because it's very easy for a government to assume that people are happy with what it is doing. You demonstrate so that you can show the government that you're sufficiently many who do not like what it is doing, which is also one of the reasons why governments don't like demonstrations and why they break them up. Because it is only through a demonstration that you are able to display the amount of displeasure that is there against the government. Now, with the response to this being that they have resorted to murder of demonstrators, that is why we also picked up the issue of signing a petition, because it's safe. You are not going to shoot me for signing a petition. So, but in the same breath, through an alternative action, we are also able to display the fact that people are not happy.
Ideally, what would you be then premising the collection of signatures to, quote, because we've had Azimio say that they want to remove the president with these signatures. Where is that basis in the law?
I think first, let's have the signatures in place, and then decisions will be made as to what is the best direction that can take. Okay. Yes, I would not want to anticipate for.
Perhaps.
No, I've not been personally involved, so I just wait until possibly the people handling it announce also, yes.
Because we've seen, like yesterday now, this week we've seen there are calls from a section of, residents from Nyanza to secede from the country and form their own republic. Do such actions and such activities by a section of Kenyans speak to the rule of law and governance in this country?
It is sad when, as a country, we get to a point where people feel that way, and especially people who are living in such a central part of this republic. because we should be having a republic that everybody feels works for them, whichever way and wherever they are. So when you start having a country like Kenya having sentiments like those, that is worrying. And to me, it means that something that is not working. We had, just before independence, we had the Northern Frontier District voting and saying that they did not want to be part of the new republic. And that position stayed for a very long time. It could be very different today, but ever since now the NAC government came, they removed the curfews, and we started integrating the Northern Frontier District as part of the republic. I think there has been a lot of change of sentiments among those people as to what Kenya means for them today, and devolution has also helped that a lot. So it is not anything I think that we should dismiss, in the sense that it is necessary, if we are talking about having a unitary republic, to look as to why those sentiments are getting that strong.
Then would such an activity, an action by the 10,000, actually it's from the Luo community who want to leave Kenya and form their own country, would there be perhaps as an element of success in such drive or a calling?
It's all these are usually political actions. So it's 10,000 people are signing a petition. Of course, a lot of millions of people are involved. There are many interests involved. So, as I said, I wouldn't want to look at it purely on the basis that whether they will succeed or not. They are most likely not going to succeed, but I don't think that should be the point. The point should be, how did we get those kind of sentiments beginning to crop up while we still say that we are building a united country? That's, to me, is a mark of failure on our part, or on the part of political leaders, that we have gotten to that point.
And during the demonstrations, Counsel, we saw your client, Raila Odinga, the leader of Azimio, make claims of assassination attempts towards him. Has he gone so far as to, sue anybody or to make a legal report on this?
Well, as he said, the state wanted to assassinate him. That is his allegation. Who do you report to when it is a government that is trying to assassinate you?
Then do you feel that during such demonstrations, when such comments are made or when such claims are made by Azimio, is there like a dead end they face in terms of legal avenues to explore claims that they make?
The person, as I said, the person who he says who would want to assassinate him would have to be the government. And as you said, it is a police or rogue police units that were being used during those demonstrations to attack protesters and to attack him. So I don't think you'll get very far by going back to the same force to report such a thing. If anything, if they were interested in taking any action, I think we would start with the 50 people who are already confirmed dead, and who we have had post-mortem reports showing very clearly that they were killed by police bullets.
And then we did see the Inspector General say that, their bodies were hired, dead bodies were hired to subject. What did that make you feel?
I wouldn't even want to comment on that. It's insane. It really is insane to say that.
All right. Now, we've seen the recent political activity between Azimio and Kenya Kwanza in the way of talks between the two factions. What is Azimio's stand? We've seen, of course, the issues of concern. There is no power-sharing deal that Azimio is flaunting. But as a coalition, what is your legal advice in terms of being able to go through these talks and resolve the issues of concern?
It's unfortunate that we started off at a point where talks became necessary. But our view has been that this new regime came with a lot of arrogance, and was very dismissive about other people, about other people's rights, about the entitlement of citizens. It started becoming very exclusive, We had talks of some people who are shareholders and others who are not, and what people are entitled to. And the talks have become necessary because it has become necessary for us to sit down and say what our concerns are and to demand that those concerns be addressed. We didn't need to have gotten there had the concerns that were there been dealt with and dealt with honestly and responsibly.
And is there light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps, that this time these talks would go through? Because you did see the bipartisan talks that flopped. There was the visit by Obasanjo, and then now these talks. Is there hope that perhaps there will be a consensus this time?
Our negotiating team leader, Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka, has said that we've come to the negotiating table in good faith, and we are negotiating in good faith with an intention of getting to a solution on all those problems. But we are not on the table alone, so we are hoping that the other side also comes with an intention of resolving those problems, not just of pretending to be talking, but with no intention of fulfilling any of of solving any of the problems that are there.
It's been 1 year since, as you wind up, it's been 1 year since the election. When you look at the past year and the remaining 4 years for this regime, for this administration, what are some of the flaws that you identify, and are there any successes that perhaps this government has achieved in terms of juxtaposing with what Azimio had planned for the country?
First, in very many ways, when this regime took power, you wondered whether they had lived through the last 20 years of this country, because they seemed to be taking over from where Moi left. In terms of the constitution, in terms of governments, in terms of attitudes. And they were picking as if they're starting from scratch. We've gone through a lot as a republic. We've done 60 years today. We've done 20 years of multipartism, 13 of the constitution. You cannot start ruling Kenya as if you're starting from scratch. That's one problem they did. Secondly, they came with a messiah complex, that we were in problems and they had all the solutions. But we have increasingly seen a lot of the solutions that they're coming up with are flopping. We had the oil deal, which was touted and supposed to revert the exchange rate to 115. We're now doing 150. We are having to raise money now. I think the payment is coming up in October. That's going to be another issue. So they need to slow down. First, on the promises they make, they have not delivered any of the promises they made, but they keep making new ones. I think they need to slow down. They need to understand they are not messiahs. They will never be. They are not going to do any magic. The idea that within 5-10 years you're going to turn this country into some Singapore and some highly developed country, it's not up to any one person. This whole road started with Kibaki. He did his bit. Who has come and done his bit? They come and do their bit, and in the long run is when we shall realize whether we've been making the right decisions. But I fear that they might, economically and constitutionally, they might set us back, far back.
Okay. When you see the issue of the talks that Kenya Kwanza on its side had proposed the creation of the leader of opposition and an office in that regard, and some articles, Article 255 talks about the things that cannot be amended without a referendum. Do you perhaps foresee that between now and 2027 there could be a referendum?
There are some things that are proposed that are not going to be possible without a referendum. The question then would be that when do you do that referendum? Because you can pass those things, but decide that you're going to implement them after the next elections. And therefore you make that referendum part of the ballot as we go for vote. Or you could decide to do it now, because I think the question would be expense. And you can go and, if we are able to raise the money, go and do the referendum and put them in place. But I think we first have to see whether we are going to agree on those issues. But once we agree on them, of course, then the legal question is going to be whether a referendum is necessary. And depending on what we agree on, there is a way we can phrase it. There is a way that will make a referendum mandatory, depending on how we restructure. So if we provide for leader of opposition in a way that involves restructuring the institutions, maybe interfering with parliament, then for sure we are going to have to need a referendum.
Your closing remarks regarding the outlook or the forecast for Azimio, henceforth, what would your supporters perhaps be anticipating to see from Azimio moving forward?
Our supporters know, and we have told them that this is going to be a very bumpy ride, and we cannot lie to them that this is going to be easy. It's going to be bumpy, not just because of internal factors, but also external factors. We are, however, more worried about the internal factors. How is this administration responding to the challenges that are there? There are many challenges that were there even as they came, which they had denied, but those factors are now affecting them. So we are concerned about how they are responding to those factors. But we are also concerned that they are also introducing new factors that are also making life difficult for people. And therefore, we also have to question them on the new factors that they are creating. And we have told our people, as we do that, this is not going to be a nice ride. It's going to be very bumpy.
Indeed. Thank you very much. We've been speaking to lawyer Paul Mwangi. He is the legal advisor to the Azimio la Umoja, right here on TV47. Thank you so much for watching. Asante. Indeed, that is the conversation it promised you with Azimio's legal counsel, that is Paul Mwangi, regarding a myriad of issues, of course, surrounding issues of concern that the Azimio la Umoja coalition has raised, and some feedback. You caught me going through some of your feedback. There is Davis Omolo here who says that is the bitter truth, whatever Paul Mwangi says. You also have Julia... Dr. Julie Karanja from St. Bridget Hospital, Kembu, says, say hi to Paul Mwangi, the lawyer. That is just some of your feedback. Also, no feedback I'm seeing on, especially on Twitter, at TV47 News, at George Maringa _